And welcome everyone to the Riverside County Board Brief as we give you a brief look at what took place during today's Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. My name is Pep Fernandez, and joining us here off the top, the Director of Legislative Affairs for the county, Carolina Herrera. And Carolina, what are some of the top priorities right now for you and your team?
Well, we're actually excited to have sponsored our first bill for the year, which is related to donkeys. So many of you may have seen them roaming around your community. As you know, they're a public safety issue. So we have SB 371, authored by Senator Ochoa Bogue, which will allow our Animal Services Department to contract with nonprofit providers to provide this essential service.
Yeah, a little bit of video of Donkey Land here in Moreno Valley. We had a chance to go out there, I'd say about a year ago, and people love Donkey Land out there, and obviously, connecting with nonprofits is a good thing. So, with the growth of the county, Carolina, what does that mean in terms of the growth of the delegation as well for the county of Riverside?
As you know, we're the fastest growing county in California, so that means our congressional delegation has grown to 6 members. So we have 2 new members of Congress representing our interests in DC, and our delegation in the state legislature is up to 10. So we have a lot of advocates for our work, and it's our job to make sure that this monthly update and report helps be a guide for them.
So a bigger voice for Riverside County with more delegates, right?
Yes, we're excited.
All right, that's Carolina Herrera, the Director of Legislative Affairs, for joining us here. Thank you, Carolina. Really appreciate it. All right, now moving along, we also talked budget during today's Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. Let's take a look at some video from earlier today as the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, Jeff Van Wagenen, gave us the mid-year report to kind of give us a forecast of what's coming up. And actually, the last couple of years have been pretty good for Riverside County in terms of money. It might kind of tail off a little bit and kind of stabilize over the next couple of years, but when you look at the last 2 or 3 years, it has been very good for the county of Riverside. So that was some good news that he was able to share with the supervisors today. Let's hear from Jeff Van Wagenen, the CEO, talking about the mid-year budget.
The good news in this report is that from the time that we adopted the budget to the mid-year that ended at the end of the calendar year, our reserves are up. The year beginning reserves, our discretionary revenue is up. Our net county cost is relatively consistent. We did have the $16 million that we increased in net county cost related to some capital improvement projects. The net savings from the adopted budget, which, as this board will recall, we adopted the budget balanced for the first time in recent memory. We're now showing a net savings of $73 million. Our ending reserves that were originally at the time of the budget, and we were pretty excited at that point that reserves were at 368. We are now projecting our reserves at the year end of this current fiscal year to be $537 million.
All right, again, that was CEO Jeff Van Wagenen. So let's pivot from the budget to pension. We also have some video from the meeting earlier today as the Director of Finance, Don Kent, who went in front of the board to give an update on the pension and what it looks like in the future. He gave us a review where we're at right now. There was a lot of big numbers there, but the outlook looks good. Here's the Director of Finance, Don Kent.
Pension costs will continue to increase. That is a given. It will happen, projected for at least the next decade. We touched on the nominal increase for the coming budget year. And by the way, that does include not only the increase from CalPERS, but also the pension obligation bond debt service. And then also over the next 5 years, projected as of this report, 1.8 percentage points for miscellaneous and 5.4 for safety. Recommendation is to continue to stay the course as directed by the board with the POB savings to the pension trust, and they are substantial. And within 5 years, as noted earlier, there will be more than $130 million, and in 10 years, $200 million that perhaps some of our board members that are sitting here today, and certainly those down the road, will be able to utilize those money to draw on to mitigate some of the rising contribution rates or to make additional discretionary payments to knock down that unfunded liability.
All right, very good. And moving along, Supervisor Ixchel Gutierrez acknowledging that the UDW contract has been finalized. This is specific to in-care home providers and caregivers, and this is a big boost to them. Here is Supervisor Gutierrez.
And then we also finalized, and I think that's important to highlight, Today, we finalized the raises for the in-home support providers, our caregivers, including medical benefits. So I think that's a good thing.
And finally here, let's take a trip out to the Prado Dam with Supervisor Karen Spiegel. Let's take a look at some video from the meeting. Supervisor Spiegel giving us an update on the Prado Dam, which is in her district. In fact, she recently took a trip to the Pentagon to meet with and negotiate with the Army Corps of Engineers for the revamping of the Prado Dam. Of course, you can see it there in the background. It was first painted for the 200-year bicentennial. And the good news is it will be revamped. It will be repainted in the coming months. Here is Supervisor Karen Spiegel.
And here it is, February 28th. We now going to have it approved, and we are going to hit that May 1st deadline to get the dam repainted if weather allows us on the schedule. So the Army Corps has now given the contract. This is what we're voting on today. So we can move forward and paint that. We're looking, and hopefully to get this completed sometime early May, sometime in May, so that we can have it all ready. And those of you who haven't heard is that we were just repainting, taking off the graffiti, and reestablishing what was already there, and that was in honoring of the bicentennial. So it is a icon for the Inland Empire. It is larger than Mount Rushmore.
And that was 2nd District Supervisor Karen Spiegel. My name is Pep Fernandez. We appreciate you watching the Riverside County Board Brief, and we will see you next time.